What is going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 202 of Littleroot Lessons. I have a longer beard than Carter for the first time in over 3.5 years. So does Jay. And, audio listeners, just turn on the video, go onto your Spotify. We have the video there. You need to see this. It took me a moment to find out. Amanda thought like someone died. Like I yelled so loud.
I nearly had a heart attack.
I wish I was recording when they came in because it was hilarious. Yeah. It was genuinely fantastic.
Carter didn't even have his headphones on yet, and he could hear my reaction from across the room.
Yes, it was fantastic.
Yeah, and then I walk in, I'm like, oh, how about them Cowboys? Because, at least as of the time of recording, I still haven't gone like Joker crazy yet because of the Eagles. And Jay's like, no, look at the screen. I'm like, yeah, you're in a new spot. I'm like,
yeah,
no,
like what? I don't get it. What's so weird about that?
And then he's like, I just like look at Carter, and I'm like,
yes,
no.
That's what it is, Angelo. You figured it out.
Pick out the obvious thing. I know the background around me is a little bit different. I've been here before on the podcast. I've been down here. This has been 3 years in the running over here with Carter's beard. So you would think Captain Obvious would just pick out the obvious choice, but nope.
Nope. We spent 5 minutes before recording trying to figure out like how long it's been going through old videos, and I found it was episode 19 of Littleroot Laddering. It is the Doug Shiro Tentacruel team that we mentioned a few episodes back. That was on Laddering.
So fun.
Dated September 8th. 2020. COVID was still a thing. I didn't have any back issues. Literally, like this is the last time Carter's beard was this short were like the waning moments of like my S1 disc.
And like the crazy part is like I looked so young and youthful and so full of energy back then.
Well, yeah, it was. It was 2020. It's 2024 now.
Before corporate America put its foot on our throat.
I mean, I left corporate. My work has gotten better since then.
I started working my job literally probably that week, and that was the start of my back issues. Mm-hmm. Shout out to corporate America for ruining my life.
Yeah, don't get old, kids. Your back goes. Yeah, no, it's actually miserable.
As soon as I got done, shaving, because Tiff was like, yeah, I like it when your beard is a little shorter, a little more cleaned up. I'm like, yeah, that's fair. So I got off work and everything. I'm like, yeah, I'll just go in and clean it up a little bit, and then I'm like, I don't like how this looks. I'm just going to keep going shorter. And I get down to the goatee. I'm like, I'm not going shorter than this. Like, I don't like how this looks, but I'm not going shorter than this.
You should have just gone with the Top Gun Muzzy. Like, you should have just gone with straight up Muzzy, bro.
Tiff hates this. She says I look too much like my dad, which, yeah. I don't have a picture of my dad when he was like 30. But if I did, I would have Carl put it in right now. I'm going to message my mom, see if she does.
Yeah, no, it's weird me having the largest, because usually, we aren't here though to talk about the facial hair and the back issues of your at least in Pokemon age geriatric podcast hosts. We're here to talk about some very fun Pokemon that we think are either underutilized, underrated, or underexplored in the Regulation F metagame, based on like what we saw in Portland or what we've seen in some of these larger limitless tours that have popped up, like Wide League, Tommy's Tuesdays, VR, so on and so forth. So we all have some Pokemon, and it's just gonna be fun exploring mons. Jay, this was your idea, so...
No, it wasn't!
This was a collaborative idea that started with all of us, and it was, it started with, let's see how, underutilized Pokemon translate in day 2. I figured we didn't have a lot of data, considering we only had one, major tournament, a bunch of, grassroots stuff. I thought also it'd be more fun if we, got a little opinionated and talked about things that, we like and we've been using that maybe aren't really being picked up in these tournaments because people are, trying to use what's been consistent and really strong so far in the new format. These are more Pokemon that we think have good matchups into the meta, have good niche roles, are undervalued for what they can do and bring to the team.
Yes, but I would say in general, like you, I feel like
All right,
you
so
forefronted
I
this
went
enough.
I went and read the messages, and I said something along the lines of niche mons that need more play, and then Jay went, do we want to do underrated mons that we can do opinions on?
I knew it
So
wasn't me. It wasn't me, so I thought it was Jay.
I also knew it wasn't Angelo, and that's what mattered.
Yeah, I think like the niche idea. We could have gotten really into the weeds with some of the choices. Like we could have picked like something like Zebstrika or something for like as a Raging Bolt counter. But I
I'm
think the
actually working
Pokemon.
on I'm actually working on a hot Zebstrika team for laddering.
That's why it came to mind. I
So
was thinking we were talking about Electabuzz the other day in UDL RTT and just talking about how it has like these immunities, and with Terra it's like it has Follow Me and extra immunities and stuff. But I feel like we would get into the weeds and talking about Pokemon who maybe don't have like the
actual
matchup,
viability. Yeah.
yeah, or the stats per se, and instead talk about Pokemon that are good, have been good in recent formats, have been maybe overlooked just because there's another Pokemon of that same type or that does a similar role that does it maybe a little bit better, but these Pokemon bring additional options and ideas that you can try to use with your team.
Yeah. So, Carter, you want to
It's
throw up the showdown?
so you were talking about Electabuzz. For this week's laddering videos, I have Michael Zhang's team from Portland, which had Magmar on it. So I think that'll actually come out Tuesday, maybe Wednesday. I don't remember what day Carl's gonna have that go up. But that team was really sick. Would highly recommend go watching that. I think I only brought Magmar to like one game, but like it was like critically important to winning that game. So that's definitely something I would recommend if you're interested in seeing some of these like off the wall mons that can actually do something. Magmar is in that situation too. But actually talking about like mons that have some results behind them. I think my first one here that I want to talk about is Annihilate. It is a Pokemon that just continues to impress me every time I have ever put it on a team. And let's see. Don't mind me. I'm completely prepared for everything we have going on. So the Palkia Academy House Tourney number 20 this past week was actually won in the hands of Lawrence VGC with Annihilate. If I actually pull up their paste here. Yeah, they are doing Lefties Defiant. Yeah, just the same set that it's been forever. Terrifier, Bulk Up, Rage Fist, Drain Punch. The big difference here is typically you see Annihilate next to like a form of redirection. Lawrence's team does not have that. It just has like multiple fake out users thanks to Rillaboom and Incineroar, which Incineroar being back means that like Defiant Pokemon are actually better than they used to be, which is saying something because even in the last format with like Hisui and Arcanine, I thought that Annihilate was really good. And the big problem for Annihilate specifically, if you're trying to do bulk up things, there's a certain Pokemon that runs around and always crits you. Urshifu's not great, especially if you're like Terra Fire, which most are, so you don't get burnt. And then there's like obviously Fluttermane as well, which like both of their stabs hit you super effectively, which is why you're partly why you are Terra Fire. It gives you a resistance to Dazzling Gleam. It turns your Ghost weakness into a Ghost neutrality. And of course, obviously not being able to be burnt is a huge part too. So if you can ever like line Annihilate up to where you get a parting shot off into it, you're just so happy. your opponent just immediately is terrified of Annihilate, and like then you just can sit here and like bully your opponent with whatever is next to Annihilate, get a bulk up, and then just like take hits and eventually just hit like a 200 power Rage Fist into anything. And at like +1, it will KO the format. So
Yeah.
Annihilate is fantastic. I know I played it on Laddering a couple weeks back at this point. And again, it was just like the best part of that team was doing Annihilate things.
Yeah, one of the things I really do like about Annihilate, or just Ghost types in general in this format, is that it is immune to extreme speed. One of the things that we saw last week was how oppressive and how powerful priority spam, specifically like the extreme speed spam from Entei and Dragonite can be. Now, I know that like Alex Underhill, he said on one of the top episodes that he doesn't expect his team to like continue to do really, really well. I think it's because everyone's going to counter team it so hard. But regardless, just like being normal type immune right now or normal resist is just an amazing thing to be. And I think the other thing that's also super cool, specifically with Lawrence's team, is that with the Terrifier, you can go Terrifier on the Annihilate and do a self-grass glide into yourself to act as a Rage Fist booster. It doesn't boost you as much as a beat up would, but still having that the priority ability to just give your Rage Fist an extra 50 base power, that alone is pretty useful. Especially when you're in a situation where, with all the priority in the format, that like your mouse hold or your what's it called, Whimsicott, it gets knocked out because they clicked sucker e-speed into your Whimsicott, and now you don't have really any way of getting your boosts. At least now you have your own like priority way to try to counteract the other priority.
I also think with like not on Lawrence's team specifically, but in this format where there's a lot of choice scarf Urshifu, something you could do into like Terrifier Annihilate. With on Lawrence's team, he has they have the Gastrodon. You could like scarf U-turn into your Annihilate, get the Rage Fist boost, and then put the Gastrodon next to it to stop any of the surging strikes coming into it. That'll be super effective into the fire type terrestrialization that you're normally going to be looking for. But that brings me to like another point with Annihilate, which is that I think that Annihilate will evolve to incorporate different Terra types, which we are seeing here on the lab mouse. We're seeing like grass type Terra, water type Terra, starting to pop up a little bit. And I think that works, it makes a lot of sense with Amoonguss running around, with Urshifu running around, with like Raging Bolt. You don't really want the water type Terra, so like something like Grass Terra is a really good neutral Terra for it.
Yeah, one of the other things, just looking at like the mons that were used with it at the Tommy Tour, which it finished 8th place in out of like over 100 players. Indeedee Female, Ogerpon Wellspring, Mousehole, Rillaboom, like those are the Pokemon that the people who brought Annihilate to that tournament, those were like the Pokemon that were being most used with it. So like people are using Redirection, so I think Redirection next to Annihilate is always going to be good. And we have just the amount of redirectors that have been added in this format, like going back to even like Regulation C, where Mousehold was still pretty much the king. We never even see it anymore because they've added like Indeedee Female's just omnipresent. It's so powerful. All of these Ogerpons, even the more offensive Heartflame Mask ones, are running Follow Me. We just got 2 new Follow Me users that we were discussing. What we just discussed in Magmar and Electabuzz. Like, there's so much great redirection to use, where you have different options. Where if you're you can pick the perfect redirector or redirectors for your team to help the Annihilate and whatever else is on your team to succeed.
I think the big thing now versus like early regulations is you're not needing the beat up tech to like win games with it, right? Like I think that's something that Annihilate has really evolved the last several series is it's bulky enough to take hits, and if you do have some form of redirection, being able to get like a single setup like bulk up is enough for it to be able to live so many more hits and threaten your opponent so much more. The constant fear of Defiant means that like typically they're not going to bring their Intimidate Pokemon in those matchups in the fear of like giving you a free +1. So it actually also incentivizes it also like is a boost to your other physical attackers on your team by being just like a thorn in your opponent's side. Like if you can just like in team preview go, okay, they're not going to bring Incineroar here. That makes whatever other physical attacker I have on my team better. So looking here at the Tommy Tours, they have the 8th place team here has like a Rillaboom on it, right? Like now Rillaboom can kind of go crazy because you've eliminated the Intimidator on their side. You've eliminated the fire weakness that Rillaboom has. It's like now you just get to sit here and click Grassy Glide into whatever your opponent's doing. If you look at the Trick Room teams, there's not really other physical mons on that team, which is even better because as a as a size spam team, having that like dark type on the opposing side is kind of a pretty annoying threat for when you want to click Expanding Force. So just being able to like click a Drain Punch into whatever slot Incineroar is coming into just gives you a free KO and like removes a huge problem for you. It really is just like super synergistic in helping these teams function on a level that I think a lot of people haven't experienced or haven't played with to actually feel how useful it is in that slot.
And when you're incorporating it with like the Rillaboom, you get that extra healing from Grassy Surge. You get the leftovers. You really want to be clicking Drain Punch the majority of the time with this because you're going to keep your longevity. You're going to up your Rage Fist power. And you're going to stay on the field for, a long time. And you're going to constantly be a thorn in the side of those Incineroars, those Lando T's, those Gyarados, etc., all those Intimidators. And really never give them a chance to go and intimidate your strong physical attacker that's next to the Annihilate. We've seen defiant Pokemon like King Gambit, like Ogerpon, Teal Mask, really doing well, and they're running the fighting type coverage to cover for the Incineroar. Now you get this fighting type coverage that's also stab and positively benefits you.
Yeah, 100%.
It's pretty fantastic, and I think Annihilate is definitely underutilized, but I think it also is versatile in that you can use something like a Choice Scarf set with the Final Gambit is still very viable, especially with the recent drop in things like Tornadus. I mean, you have a lot of the priority spam, but you're not going to get hit by those Terra Normal E-Speeds. You're going to be hit by Sucker Punches, which are a little bit they're okay. It's a neutral damage. It's a neutral attack. Stick it with a Fergaraf or with a Fake Out user, and you get a free Final Gambit off into the partner's Dragonite or whatever's coming in, and I think that's extremely strong too.
Yeah, looking at that same tournament, the top 2 teams here. There's one in 8th place. There's the Size Spam team in 27th. The 8th place team is Assault Vest, so just like extra bulk, right? And like, of course, you're paired with Rillaboom, and you have Comfey on that team, so you can get off like Floral Healing as well. So like, same idea is just like give it even more longevity. And then the Size Spam team is doing that Choice Scarf thing of just like, if you pair it next to like Indeedee or Dusclops, you can go for Trick Room plus Final Gambit and just remove their biggest threat immediately. And like, I think that's something that in like Regulation A, that was something that a lot of people were doing with it. It's just like Choice Scarf, Final Gambit, one shot whatever threat they have, which can be very good and can be very beneficial. And I think on these Size Spam teams, especially when you're trying to do like this Trick Room mode with like Blood Moon, being able to KO their huge threat, like KO their answer to Ursaluna, set Trick Room, and then bring in Ursaluna all in one turn, sets you up so well for what your game plan is trying to advance. And so like if you have Ndidi out here, Psychic Surge is going to prevent your fake out. So like it's just like multiple layers of protection to prevent your opponent from being able to advance their game plan while you advance your own. I love Annihilate. It is a mon that I have played in every regulation since it's come out, and it is just like every time I put it on a team, it just makes me go, why don't I play more with this mon?
Yeah, it's a mon where I think at some point it is going to, in some manner, it will win a regional. I don't know if it's going to be in this generation. We might have to wait for Gen 10's regional decks, but like it has that potential to be a staple winning mon, and I think that it's just getting the right player on the right team in the right situation to do it. And for all we know, it could happen this regulation. So do we want Carter? Do you want to go to our next Pokemon? Or do you want to like rotate through?
Of course. What do we want to talk about?
We can rotate. I think that'll be fine. We can move through.
Jay, pick your favorite. Let's talk about the child.
I will pick my favorite. I'll pick my child. I think that this format is very ripe for Orthworm. I think that you have a lot of Lando Eye running around, and Orthworm is an all-in-one check to that. You see Pokemon like Registeel doing the Iron Defense body press things to a pretty high degree right now. You have Clear Body on Registeel, which is an important difference because you're not afraid of being intimidated and missing out on your Heavy Slam KOs into like Flutter Mane and such. But I think that Orthworm with that ground immunity is really, really strong since Lando Eye has been making a lot of waves in the format. You have some clear issues with Pokemon like Urshifu who can critical hit you. Special attackers like Flutter Mane and Nasty Plot Goldengo are pretty tough. But this format is extremely physical. We've seen a lot of physical Pokemon do really, really good things. Teams with 4 or 5 physical Pokemon, and like a Flutter Mane tacked on. And Orthworm has really good matchups into that. You do have Pokemon like Chi-Pao with Sacred Sword, which can ignore your defense boosts. But I think that similar to Annihilate, you update the Terra type on it to something like Grass, something like Water, some neutral type that also resists Urshifu and its critical hitting. Even something like Dragon could potentially be cool. Hoping to pick up that KO on Flutter Mane early on, get rid of that, and then go on from there and take the rest of the team. But I think that Orthworm has been pretty underutilized. I think it has some pretty decent matchups into the format currently.
I'm probably going to say this like a lot more this episode, but again, one of the best things about Orthworm with the typing being a steel type, you resist extreme speed. Like being able to resist these priority moves. Like while maybe that super hard like four mons like leaning on that priority isn't going to be a long-term team. Like I do believe that Chien Knight and Chiente are just going to be 2 different combos that are just going to be very prevalent the entirety of the metagame. It's early in the format, but as of right now, it looks like that Regulation F is shaping up to be similar to Regulation C in terms of the number of teams that are viable, which does lead to a lot of matchup roulette in the format. But it also means like there are going to be maybe call it close to a dozen different sort of archetypes, and the like Chi-Pao plus extreme speed user is always going to be one of those archetypes to plan for. So having the resistance there, and then also having the ground immunity, because a lot of these Pokemon do carry a ground immunity as well to make sure, like to try to cover for the steel types. It's really great. Like Orthworm just pretty much walls Dragonite, and you gotta Terra out of the Entei matchup because they can click Sacred Fire into you. But like the fact that you have the ability to click Sacred, like Terra out of that, is also like super good.
Yeah, I can speak from experience that Orthworm does have a very good Chia Knight matchup. You can check round 13 of Hartford for that one against Chupacross. It was pretty fantastic in that matchup. And yeah, it's one of those Pokemon that is really good at picking matchups. It picks it's not a Pokemon that you want, especially in this format, that you want to bring to every single match. But I think it has a lot of good matchups into a lot of like the balanced teams currently. You have like the Latios balance that's been running around. You know, you wall out a lot of those dragon types with your steel typing as well. King Gambit isn't the most threatening. You're faster than it. Body Press does massive chunks even before an Iron Defense. And you know you're weak to like Pokemon like Incineroar and things like that, but you have Terrestrialization to get yourself away from your fire type weaknesses, and that amazing, incredibly high defense stat, which will really help you out in surviving those hits. You know, you don't have to feel threatened in front of Pokemon like Incineroar. You don't have to Terrestrialize in front of them. You know, you can sit like Incineroar's attacking stats are pretty similar to that of Arcanine, and I know that was the big intimidator in Reg C, and throughout all of my practice, I knew I could sit in front of an Arcanine, take a Flare Blitz, get my Citrus Berry up, and be in a perfectly fine spot at like 75% HP. Um, it's a matchup dependent Pokemon, but I think that it has a lot of great matchups into like Ogerpon too. The grass Ogerpon, the grass type moves from Ogerpon. Don't love it. Don't love hitting into it. It's not going to really do too much. The critical hitting on Ivy Cudgel is scary, but it's small chances, and that's a game you have to be willing to play if you're going to play Orthworm.
Yeah. I mean, also just one of the things, like I know you just brought up Incineroar, you're faster than Incineroar, and depending on how much speed you put into your Orthworm and how much they put into their Incineroar, you might just be just flat out faster than it, and you can go and Shed Tail safely in front of an Incineroar before it can even get an attack off, to just get away from it, or immediately pressure with a body press.
And that's the other thing I haven't even touched on is that Shed Tail is a fantastic move still.
Yeah.
Putting yourself behind a substitute with any Pokemon, especially when you're coming off of Orthworm, which has that middling base speed, you get your free switch in similar to how Annihilate did it with Final Gambit to get that Ursaluna Blood Moon in. You put your Pokemon in behind that substitute, and you know what? Maybe my Orthworm isn't as strong for the rest of the game, but now I have a Chien Pao, a Dragonite, an Entei. I have something behind that substitute that's going to really be threatening your team with a lot of damage. And you have to take out that substitute and then take out that Pokemon. And I think that move is also great for its pivoting, similar to like Parting Shot with Incineroar.
Another thing that, talking about like mons that really want to sit behind a Shed Tail, something like Iron Bundle sounds pretty okay as well.
Fluttermane.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just any of these typically frailer Pokemon that are able to hit you hard and hit you fast. Really like the idea of getting a like free hit. the fact that like they're going to be able to guarantee get a hit off on you and then take a hit back sounds really appealing for a lot of them.
And then also like setup mons too, like your Nasty Plot Golden Goes, your Dragon Dance Gouging Fires, your Scarf Urshifu could even be, or Swords Dance Urshifu, which is something the Terra Dark, the Dark Urshifu with Swords Dance, or you put a Scarf Urshifu behind there, and now you have free Surging Strikes into the Fluttermane, and you just start picking up KOs left, right, and center. I think that the substitute is very undervalued currently as well. I think Orthworm has a lot of key points to it that make it really strong in the format, and I think it's about time for all my Worm gang to start rising up and
Worm game.
Worm
What's
gang.
great about this is because of this talk, we can go post this in the Orthworm cult.
Yes, we can.
Yeah,
We're reviving it. It's coming back.
Jesus, I have.
Did you know that there's Orthworm
that's actually the
shoes?
entirety of why we did it, is so that we could just self-promote somewhere else.
Did you know that Pokemon snuck in shoes with Orthworm on it in the Indigo Disc DLC, and it took like Bruno to figure it out? Yeah, Bruno and I, Bruno, me, and Alex Underhill are the leading faces of the Orthworm gang.
I love Bruno. He's such a good dude.
Yeah, no, he's just one of the absolute MVPs of the community.
Still waiting on Tim to update those strongest soldiers rankings so I can be number 2 in the Orthworm rankings.
He's
currently stateside, I think, so it might be a bit.
It's okay.
I need to holler at Tim because Meowstick doesn't work on a lab mouse.
Okay, we're going to move on to real Pokemon.
Yeah,
the only reason I found this out is
you have to build
one of the tours that had Orthworm in it had a Meowstick on the team, and it showed a blank spot in the 6th slot on lab mouse. It's the only reason I know that.
So moving on to my first Pokemon, it is going to be Ogerpon Cornerstone, the least used of the Ogerpons recently. And I think it has a lot of great things going for it. First and foremost, going to be a broken record this episode. You resist extreme speed. It is so valuable, and not only do you resist extreme speed, you can also spec your Ogerpon to where you're faster than the main East speed users, Dragonite and Entei, so that your Follow Me actually redirects the extreme speeds. One of the things that our listeners might not know is that Follow Me and Extreme Speed are in the same exact priority tier. So, like, for your slower Follow Me users, you could click Follow Me, and then you can, like, with your Indeedee, and Indeedee's a bad example.
Keep going. You're doing great, buddy.
Your Magmar, your Moongus,
thank you,
something like.
you.
Well, Magmar is actually like 95. Isn't it a little bit higher? Isn't it like 95?
I think.
But I don't think you run a lot of speed in it normally.
Yeah. Well, saying your Magmar, your Amoonguss is better. You click Rage Powder with your Amoonguss, and then you see the extreme speed go off into your partner still and KO it, and then you click Rage Powder and you're redirecting nothing because it's already dead. So being able to do that and then resist the extreme speed is really huge. Rock damage in general is really, really great into this format. When you look at some of the top used Pokemon, having rock when you're looking at some of the top used Pokemon right now, you have Chien-Pao. Chien-Pao is weak to rock. Inson's weak to rock. Urshifu, you have the grass type. You have the grass type for grass type for Urshifu. The rock type also hits like Tornadus,
Dragonite, Entei.
Dragonite, and yep, exactly. Dragonite, Entei, like, it's amazing typing offensively, and you like the sturdy ability. Like, having a built-in sash is absolutely major, where you can redirect these multiple attacks and let a Fergaraf set up its trick room, or you can just let a Pokemon set up next to it, or even just go for attacks. I know we're just saying it was a mon that wasn't, or Pokemon that weren't really used too often through too much success. My glorious captain of New England VGC, Cable, he just came in 3rd place in the Wide League using a Fergaraf Blood Moon team with that Ogerpon Rock as its
I saved that
Pokemon.
rental today.
Yeah, so it's a lot of people. It seems like a lot of top players. I also saw that Jody Azzarelli was using the Blood Moon Fergaraf as well. I feel like that is an archetype that is also just becoming more popular in the face of the priority spam teams. And so Ogerpon is usually slotted into that team as like your redirector who can also do damage. And a lot of times it is either the Water Pawn, which is bulkier. It's really good into the side spam matchup because you can terrestrialize and get the embody aspect boost to your special defense. Fire Pawn's also another option because it's really, really good into Amoonguss. But Ogerpon Rock could probably give you the most consistent, gives you the most consistent trick room.
Something else you can do with it is Terra Rock and boost that defense and take the E-speeds even better.
Yeah, 100%. The downside to that is now you're weak to Surging Strikes.
But you're also
that is
not
the
weak to
one
Ice
huge
Spinner
complaint,
anymore.
right? Yeah.
You're not weak to Ice Spinner anymore, too.
Yeah.
But then you're weak to Sacred Sword, too, so...
Well, you're always weak to Sacred Sword.
I mean, true, but
sturdy
now
original.
you're weak to it, So, I know what I mean. Come on, guys.
I have been using Ogerpon Cornerstone throughout UDL this season, and it has been absolutely fantastic. Both as redirection and an offensive Pokemon. Like Angela was saying, you have that really great speed stat. Allows you to become, you can take those E-speeds better than whatever your partner Pokemon is. The rock type damage is fantastic. You can run Horn Leech on it and potentially restart your sturdy ability after getting a little bit of chip damage. You still have Spiky Shield, knockoff, superpower, etc. It has a really diverse move pool, but you're typically going to run the same 4 moves. Its big thing also is that it's kind of stuck on one team right now.
The other thing that's good about it is typically looking at the teams here, there's a lot of pairings next to Rillaboom as well, which then boost your Horn Leech damage as well, thanks to grassy terrain. So you're able to get that much more recovery plus grassy terrain recovery. That is it is something that I don't think enough people talk about, is the incidental recovery that all of these teams seem to have right now between leftovers and there's Life Dew that's been running around. I've played multiple teams so far that have Life Dew mons on them, grassy terrain, just the amount of incidental recovery on so many of the top teams right now is insane, and not enough people talk about it.
You can also run Grassy Glide on it too, and you can put it next to that Rillaboom, switch it out into a Chi and Pow, and now you're picking up Flutter Mange, you're picking up Urshifu with that KO, with the Terra the grassy terrain boosted Grassy Glides with priority next to the Sword of Ruin. You're doing lots of damage. I don't think it's as consistent as something like Horn Leech. I saw the team that Cable I think took the 3rd place had Power Whip on it, which I get because you're not trying to break your sturdy with Woodhammer. I also don't like missing moves, so I would prefer something else.
True.
Yeah, I'm not sure why he went with. I mean, I can just ask him.
It's you don't want the sturdy. You don't want to. Yeah. And Horn Leech doesn't do enough to pick up the KOs on the Urshifus.
Okay, yeah, that's probably why. Jay was also correct last week with the Smeargle debacle debate. We found out a little after Ryan messaged me back and said that he went with own tempo because he wanted to be certain of his speed every turn, and Moody was just too much variability, which makes a lot of sense. But yeah, no, that's why I think this is a cool Pokemon. I've been trying to work on it all week, and at some point I will probably get something together where I feel comfortable enough to actually play for once.
It pairs very nice with Golden Go. I'll tell you that much.
So Carter, your second Pokemon.
Sorry, I was texting Carl. My second Pokemon is Tyranitar. As weird as it sounds, in a format dominated by priority moves that can hit it for super effective damage, moves that always crit and hit you for super effective damage, and Flutterbane running around that also hits you for super effective damage. Tyranitar is really interesting. So I played this on, was it Michael Zhang's team that had it on it?
Yes.
And it was like strangely really good. Like the more I have played with it, the more I'm just like, man, Tyranitar seems kind of sick. Have you all had like any experience playing Tyranitar in this format right now?
I haven't touched Tyranitar since 2021.
Yeah, I haven't
since the last time I shaved.
Yes, pretty much. That's how long it's been. When you shaved, looks like I have to go use Tyranitar again.
I haven't.
Yeah,
I haven't really played it myself.
Yeah, I think the last time I used Tyranitar was the series. It was like the Series 8 laddering team. It was like Yveltal Tyranitar. So yeah, it's been a while. But no, it's a very, very, very interesting Pokemon. Again, you resist extreme speed. That is good. That is a rock fact. I think another thing
rock facts brought to you by Angelo.
Geology, baby, let's go.
I think that like the weather itself, while rain and sun didn't have amazing results in Portland, again, like these are teams that are going to be used. People are doing pretty well with different like Archaludon rain balance teams in the in all the different Limitless tours. Stefan Pengi has been killing it on the Limitless tours with his Jumpluff Sun team. And so it's like another one of those things where at some point these weather teams are going to pop up and these teams are reliant on their weather. It's not like the weather teams of Reg C where it's like the weather's a bonus. All of these Pokemon are, or even like the Reg D like rain team where it's an Urshifu and the rain just makes it better. But without the rain, it's still an Urshifu. Like these teams need the weather up and to disrupt that with Sandstream and to also negate a lot of the passive healing that we've seen in this format, negate someone's lefty's recovery or their grassy surge recovery. That in itself is like super, super useful.
Plus, you like boost your own special defense in the sand with which helps you into like Archaludon. And also it helps you with breaking sashes, which I think is extremely important with Pokemon like Chi and Pao running around, who also threaten it quite a bit with Sacred Sword. If you're running like the Terra Psychic with Sucker Punch or Terra Flying with Ice Spinner, the weather itself, I think, is actually quite beneficial. It doesn't necessarily help a lot of the Pokemon on your team, but we saw on Michael Zhang's team that 3 of their Pokemon had that Steel Terra, which are not going to take any of the Sand Chip, which gives you a benefit because they're taking damage, you're not. And then you get that special defense boost as well, and I think that's really important on Tyranitar.
I will say, trying to abuse sand on these kind of teams is more difficult than it may look, just because there is so many prankster mons running around with weather setting moves. Tornadus typically is running like rain. Tornadus here lately have a lot of Tornadus are running Rain Dance for some sake, right? May that be for just abusing Urshifu or setting up Archaludon, or you have access to Sunny Day on it as well to do like photosynthesis things, as well as like Whimsicott also doing Sunny Day photosynthesis things, and like being able to have like Raging Bolt being able to abuse Sun or something like that. So being able to have Tyranitar negate that weather is obviously good for you. The downside is like it's a one-turn fix. So like if you're not immediately abusing that weather, it's hard to abuse it yourself. So something that I know a couple people have talked about on Discord are like, hey, what's going on with like Excadrill? With Sandrush, you're able to outspeed Flutterbane and like be able to pressure it that way and be able to like Iron Head it or click like Earthquake next or whatever and do a ton of damage that way. The problem with that is you outspeed Fluttermane for one turn, and then your opponent is going to be able to abuse their weather back again. One of the laddering videos I played this week, I actually think it's the Tyranitar team. The 3 matches I played, I think I recorded 4 for that video. All 4 of them were against weather teams in some capacity. I think I played Walking Wake 3 times that video. It's like, well, we're gonna set, we're gonna do our weather for exactly now to negate their weather. But like that team's also not trying to abuse the weather itself, right? Like Tyranitar's not there to set sand so you can abuse it. It's there to just be a like assault vest threat that can take a hit and then dish back some big damage of its own. You're not trying to like be a setup sweeper. You're not trying to be, anything other than just like take a hit, do some damage, negate what they're trying to do. It's Tyranitar's not the like OU sweeper it has been in the past, right? It's not the weather setting threat that it has been in VGC in the past. You're not abusing sand in any way in this current format. And I think a big reason is just because there is so much incidental weather that a lot of teams are trying to abuse themselves.
Feels a lot more like a defensive tool in this format.
Yes, exactly. Else. Thank you. I think that is a very good way of putting it. It is a very useful defensive tool when you are able to use it.
Yeah, like if your Tornadus if you're forcing your opponent to click like Rain Dance every single turn with their Tornadus to try and stop your Tyranitar,
then they are never clicking Bleak Wind, and you are completely okay with that.
They're not clicking this, and and then you're clicking Rock Slide, and then they're gone. You switch your Tyranitar out, you bring it back in, poof, there goes the weather.
Yeah, there was a video. There was one of the matches in that video where I just like lead Tyranitar plus like Primarina, and they lead like Walking Wake plus Tornadus. I'm just like, well, Tyranitar cannot stay in this turn. There is 100% a Hydro Steam coming into this slot. This is the most telegraphed play of all time. We're going to dip out for a second, and Moonblast is going to deal with this Walking Wake and remove their Sun Sweeper. And sure enough, I'm pretty sure I crit the Walking Wake in like just one shot. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, we're fine. We're good. We're fine.
Are we ready to move on to my second?
Yeah, let's go.
Hit me.
Okay.
Hit me.
So a Pokemon, this is somewhat by coincidence because it does pair really well with the Orthword, but a Pokemon that I've been working on separately has been Tinglu. And I think Tinglu currently is... I think Tinglu is currently pretty underrated. I think it has a great matchup into Pokemon like Raging Bolt. It's decent into Fluttermane. It is a little bit of a Terra Hog, but you have that Vessel of Ruin, which is going to drop the special attack on the other side, which is really, really important when you're trying to protect something from getting thunderclapped or moonblast. You have really good moves like Stomping Tantrum, which if they want to fake you out, all right, I got a full power move on the next one. Heavy Slam, which can OHKO most Fluttermane. Ruination is still really, really strong in this format, especially when there is all this incidental healing running around. Being able to chunk a Pokemon for half of their health is pretty awesome. The biggest downside to it is that you still are boosting stamina on Archaludon, which is a pain in the butt, but it also works as a decent Archaludon counter. The biggest issue, I think, is very clearly Urshifu, a lot of rain running around. The Sun teams have Walking Wake, the Ogre Ponds, exactly. It is very reliant on Terra and matchups again, but I think that this is one of the formats where we could see something like Tinglu make its way back. It has amazing stats across the board. It doesn't need a lot of investment to live Surging Strikes straight up, the base Surging Strikes with Mystic Water. You can live your Ogerpon Ivy Cudgels, your Wood Hammers, and your Horn Leeches. You are very easily living Moon Blasts. You live Ice Spinners and Sacred Swords and Close Combats. It has the bulk to remain on the field, be an ever-present threat, chunk things for 50% damage, and then allow your really strong attacker to do whatever it needs to do, whether it be your Urshifu, your own Ogerpon, something like a Golden Go is something I like to pair with it. It's a little counter synergistic, but it helps the Golden Go set up, and then you can either remove the Tinglu or just allow it to do the ruination stuff, and stick around and just be really annoying that way.
Are you still running Fissure?
I currently am. I think Rock Slide is better overall. I don't really click Fissure, but it's a funny move, and when I do click it, I normally hit it. So
now, is it you remember you hit it more frequently than not, or
no? Actually, when I've been playing this team, I've been playing this team with Tinglu on it, and I've been floating just outside of the top 500 on Showdown. And there's been a couple matches where I'm like, oh, I was playing, like, I remember the Sinistra was like gonna set up Trick Room, and I'm like, I'm just gonna click Fissure, and if I hit it, I hit it, and then I hit it, and I was like, this is a great move. There was another match where they set up like their Registeel really far, and I'm like, I'm just gonna click Fissure here and just see what goes on, and I hit the Fissure, and it was awesome. The deep J lore is that my alt account is Fizzy Wizzy Glizzy because of Tinglu Fissure spam stuff, and it's still pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. Like, just having that 30% chance to say, hey, I'm sitting on the field right now. If I can click this move and it hits, then I'm not really doing anything else. If I get this Oko here, that's fantastic for me. If I don't, that's all right too. But I do think that Rock Slide's a lot more consistent in a format where, Tornadus and a lot of flying types are running around, because you want to have a consistent way of hitting them that's not heavy slam or ruination. So,
hey,
yeah.
30% of the time it works every time.
One of my opponents at NEIC, it was, I believe it's like Sticky VGC he goes by. He used Fissure Tinglu, and when we sat down, he looked me dead in the eye and said, I'm going to click Fissure every single turn you let me click Fissure. And boy, oh boy, he did. I think he, in the best of 3,
oh my gosh, that's
so
funny.
Like 11 times, and I think he went like 6 or 7 for 11.
That's so funny.
I wasn't mad. I'm like,
you did what you said you were going to do.
He told me he was going to do it. There were turns where I just couldn't stop it.
Shoot or shoot, baby.
Like, honestly, 1,000. Like, I respect it. Like, just when you say you're going to do something, follow through is so important.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Dang it, you stole it from me!
I am too good, man. I always know. I'm one step ahead of the game.
This is weird to call this Pokemon underrated, especially when it was more impressive than Michael Jordan last season. But Hisuian Arcanine, everyone just completely forgot about it because of new toy syndrome with Incineroar. It's still really, really good into this format. It's a rock type, which, again,
it top 8'd in Portland. So.
It did top 8 in Portland, but like its usage stats, it went from this Pokemon's everywhere to it being non-existent. It's amazing into the priority spam teams because you resist the E-Speed and you actually can threaten both Entei and Dragonite with super effective damage, and Xianpao. You have the Intimidate, which is still amazing into everything else that can be intimidated. Just like rock coverage is really good. Being able to click fast stab, rock slide, whether you want to have it with a choice band or not, it's going to do a lot of damage into a lot of the format. And it's just a Pokemon where I feel like its low usage in Portland might have just been new toy syndrome. I wouldn't be shocked where, maybe not Charlotte, but like by Knoxville, everyone's like, oh yeah, this is just an insanely good Pokemon. And even though we have another Fire-type Intimidator, which is usually the best Fire-type Intimidator when it's in the game, this other Fire-type Intimidator it plays a different role on teams, which could allow it to maybe slot better than Incineroar, depending on what type of the type of archetype of team that you're using. So that was like, again, like a little shorter because we have a lot of recent memory on how dominant this Pokemon is. And then again, it just seemed like in the last month, everyone was just like, oh no, we're not going to use it. Whether it's new toy syndrome or just the realization that like people haven't realized like that it's still really good and could honestly be even better because of all the priority moves in the format.
I think the other big thing with it is that Urshifu Aqua Jet just kind of it does obliterates it.
But like the thing is, it did that last format.
But like that's the thing is that Incineroar doesn't have that problem.
Yes.
But Incineroar also has the problem of being neutral to things like Moonblast. You also are weak to things like you're 4 times weak to Stomping Tantrum, Surging Strikes, which a lot more Urshifu are now running like that Scarf set. It has a lot to be worried about, which is why I think it fell off. I also, like you said, it has that competition with being a fire type intimidator. Just being a fire type is tough in this format because you have Pokemon like Entei, you have Pokemon like Incineroar, you have Pokemon like Chi-Yu that are all, really solid Pokemon, have really amazing stats, really great utility. But do they have Terra Normal E-Speed? Entei does.
Do they have the Stab Rock Slide is just so good.
And Head Smash too, which is like, oh, you can intimidate me. I'm still going to hit you with a 150 base power move and obliterate your Incineroar. I'm going to take you straight out. I'm going to take out your Fluttermane here. I think that this Pokemon is still really good. I think it's another one that's going to need adaptation away from the Choice Band sets. I don't really know what direction we're moving with it, but I think that I think a lot of these Pokemon that we've been talking about tonight all kind of have similar issues in that they are all really big Terra Hogs on the team. They really want to terrestrialize away from their weaknesses because their weaknesses are so prevalent.
Yeah, but no, I think just again, like in general, it's going to be like I think it's a Pokemon that we saw. It did come. It was another Pokemon where it did cut a regional where on the right comp, because a lot of people were using it was the Latias balance team, and a lot of people were using Incineroar there, and going and adding in the the Hisuian Arcanine, it did better than all of the other like classic like more standard Latias balance teams did. But yeah. So those are our Pokemon and some Always Sunny talk, some mid 2000s sitcoms.
Did you know Always Sunny is still airing?
Even though Sunny's still airing, and it's
dude, I thought it ended like 10 years ago.
And it's like it's not as good, but it's still like not bad.
Yeah, it's renewed up through season 18.
That's crazy. That's a lot of seasons.
There's 2 more seasons like in like production.
Yeah,
listen, it's always 6 seasons in a movie. That's where you stop.
Yeah, no, they're doing that. We need 3 movies because it's 18 seasons. 18 divided by 3, or 6, you got 3. So
I'd watch
need to
3
do a
movies
movie for every. An Always Sunny movie would be nuts.
They should make the Nightman Cometh as a whole movie.
Yes.
Got the day, man. Ah.
I'm not that old yet, so I don't know what you all are talking about.
Champion of the Sun. Oh, Carl, there's your gold. Want to take us home, Jay?
Yeah. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure you guys are using your underutilized mons in the next upcoming tournaments that you're bringing them to. Make sure you guys go check out that Twitter at LR Lessons, the Discord. We all hang out over there. We're always talking about, what Pokemon we think could be used. Our community members are always great at theory crafting a different Pokemon. Make sure you check out the website, lrlessons.com. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, all the fun YouTube stuff. If you're listening over on Spotify or Apple Music, give us a rate. And then also make sure you check out our supporters links with Discord and Patreon. Shout out to Johnny Bravo Sr. and Papa Swish for the Patreon support and Smeargle for the Discord support. And with that, I think that's it. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace out.